When Alec was just a brat who spent most of his time doing useless things like fishing around the capital, a flashy magician named Elders approached him and asked if he was interested in magic. At first, Alec thought that Elders was a shady agent, but it turns out that he was really just interested in teaching him magic. Elders soon started teaching him how to cast spells by thinking about the friends he would make in the future and how he would need to save them from monster attacks. Thanks to his trauma-heavy teaching methods, Alec managed to learn magic quickly. Even then, he was disappointed that it took him a whole day to learn a single spell, and he didn't even listen to Elders mumbling that it takes normal people a month to learn that spell. Alec eagerly asked Elders to teach him another spell, but he told the overeager boy that one spell was enough for the day. Alec was not satisfied by that, but Elders remained firm on his decision, and they decided to waste the rest of their time by fishing. Alec kept pouting the entire time. But then Elders stroked his ego by telling him that he had great talent for magic. He told Alec that even without his lessons, he would become a great magician in the future, and asked him to leave it to fate. Alec was shocked to hear this, and he asked Elders why he was teaching him magic in the first place. Before he could give an answer, a fish got caught in his line, and Elders panicked because he had never caught a fish before. Alec laughed at him before helping him out, saying that a magician as skilled as him should know how to catch fish. Anyway, their life as a student and teacher continued as time passed, and Elders taught Alec a lot about magic. But then one day, Elders suddenly announced that he was leaving the capital. Alec was devastated by this news because that meant he would never meet his teacher again, but Elders had a final piece of advice for him. He told Alec that if he ever got the chance to become a court magician in the future, he should refuse to take the role. Alec couldn't understand what he meant by that, and asked Elders why he even taught him magic in the first place. Elders shed his gloomy expression for a moment as he talked about Alec's late mother, who did him a great favor when she was alive, and he was just trying to repay her son by teaching him. That was the last time Alec saw his teacher, and he worked hard to enter the Royal Magic Academy so that he could meet him again. There, Alec found that Elders was once a student of the same academy, and he graduated at the top of his class, becoming a court magician soon after that. However, he was kicked out from that post in a few years, and Alec realized why Elders told him not to become a court magician. Instead of following his advice, Alec decided to become a court magician so that he could challenge the unfair imperial court itself. Long story short, he succeeded in achieving his goal and becomes a court magician, but turns out he should have listened to his teacher's advice. Alec realized this only when Crown Prince Regulus fired him from his adventurer party in the middle of a dungeon. He asked the prince the reason for that, and the blonde told him that he was being fired because he is useless. He talked about how he always risks his life on the front line to beat the monsters. The fire magician Lenny uses her spells to repel monsters and their tank blocks enemy attacks. On the other hand, Alec stays in the rear all the time, and he can only cast pitiful support magic. Regulus said that they don't need a person like him in their party, and then further insulted Alec, saying that he doesn't even deserve to be called a court magician. Alec tried to explain the reason why he only uses support magic, but Regulus didn't want to hear his answer. Lenny also agreed with him, calling Alec a coward who doesn't have the guts to go deeper into the dungeon, and he is always holding them back. Their other companions silently nodded in agreement as well. And then Lenny said that they have put up with him all this time because the king ordered him to join their party. However, now that the prince has decided to kick him out, she saw no reason for behaving politely with him. Regulus said that Alec must have gotten the top score at the academy by bribing the professors for extra credit. He then asked him why he had a dagger on him when commoners are forbidden from carrying weapons. Alec explained that they would need the dagger for the next floor of the dungeon, but Regulus got furious at him. He took the dagger away and grabbed Alec's collar, telling him that no one in his party disobeys him. The prince then snatched away his court wizard robe, telling him that he didn't deserve it. Alec was left devastated at this, and he had no choice but to leave the dungeon. However, despite being fired and insulted, he still wanted to help Regulus and the party. He put together some notes that could help Regulus tackle the lower dungeon floors, especially since he lacked magic power. The next day, Alec went to the palace to meet the king about the same, but the guards stopped him, telling him that he had been removed from the post of the court magician. He was just a commoner now, and commoners are not allowed to enter the palace without permission. Alec was shocked to hear this, and just then, Lenny came there to make his situation worse. She told him to get lost and then walked back inside the palace, but Alec asked her to listen to him just once. He requested her to take the notes he had compiled to the king because he was the one who assigned him as the court magician and told him to join the prince's party. Lenny took the notes from him only to tear them and stomp on them. She then ordered the guards to kick the commoner out, and Alec was left hopeless and jobless in the middle of the city. He finally realized that he should have listened to elders and not become a court magician when suddenly he heard a familiar voice calling his name. Alec turned around and saw a redhead staring at him, and then she suddenly ran to hug him. He took a moment to process what was happening, but then finally recognized the girl as Yora, an old friend of his from his academy days. They sat down to catch up with each other, and Alec told Yora the story of how he was kicked out from the prince's party, as well as his position as the court court magician. Yora was furious to hear this, and she cursed the kingdom that discriminates between nobles and commoners. Alec somehow managed to calm her down before anyone heard them. And then Yora said that it is actually a good thing that he got fired. Alec wasn't even hurt by her statement after all he has been through in the past 2 days. But then Yora reminded him that she once promised that she would make him join her party someday. Alec remembered that. And then Yora revealed that she came to the capital for the same reason. She got up and stretched her hand towards Alec, asking him to conquer dungeons with her. He was happy to receive the offer, but he had started doubting himself after being fired from his job. However, Yora didn't care about any of that. She told Alec that the only person she wants to join her team is him, and no other magician can take his place. He got emotional on hearing this and immediately took up her offer, and Yora gladly welcomed him to her A-rank party. The next day, Alec left the country along with Yora, and he dreamed about Elder's advice of not becoming a court magician. A few days later, the news of Alec leaving the country reached Regulus and his party, and they couldn't care less about him. Regulus talked about how Alec was hailed as a genius among the academy students, and he had high hopes for him. He thought that they wasted their time because of him, but Lenny said that they don't need to worry about that now, because soon a pure-blooded noble will join their party, and they will become much more powerful. Meanwhile, Alec and Yora reached Fizzle, the city of dungeons. Yora told him about how this city is the base of a lot of adventurers, since it doesn't discriminate between the nobles and commoners. She was eager to get Alec registered as an adventurer quickly, but once they reached the guild, they were in for a shock. The receptionist told Alec that he couldn't be registered with Yora's party because they go beyond floor 30 of the dungeon, and he needs to be a member of the guild for 2 years before he can be allowed to join them. Yora threw a tantrum on hearing this and asked the receptionist to make an exception for Alec, but she refused. Yora asked if her friend Craw didn't approach her about this matter, and the receptionist affirmed that Craw came here and threatened them to let Alec join. However, the receptionists deal with difficult people like her every day, so they didn't even budge. Alec and Yora returned empty-handed from the guild and took a break at a public park. As they ate lunch, Yora told Alec that they have reached floor 52 of the dungeon, and they can't wait 2 years for him to join their party. However, she was not one to lose hope, and decided that if they can't go to dungeons deeper than floor 30, they will go to the shallower dungeons as warm-up. Alec was on board with that idea, and they immediately went to a low-level dungeon with insect monsters. Yora used her reinforcement magic to boost Alec's speed and darted around him, taking down the monsters with ease. However, things got serious when Yora noticed that the number of the bugs was not decreasing, and they seemed to be getting stronger. Alec agreed with her, pointing out that there must be something wrong in the nest that is forcing the monsters to act like this, but it was still under their control. As they kept fighting against the monsters, Yora activated her shield and began charging ahead to find their nest. Alec told her that she was taking a big risk by doing that, but she told him that this much was nothing. She said that he seemed to have lost his edge because if it was the Alec of the past, monsters of this level would be nothing for him. She asked him to trust her and become his real self once again. Alec realized that Yora was speaking the truth, and he just needed to regain his confidence to get them out of this situation. He remembered Elders' lesson about how he will need to save his friends from danger, and using that as motivation, he decided to get on the offensive. Alec quickly took down some monsters with fireballs and then defeated the rest with his dagger. However, a huge swarm of monsters surrounded them after that, but Yora was not worried about them any longer. She cast a barrier around them, giving Alec the prep time to cast a powerful wide area spell that instantly disintegrated all the bugs. Once everything seemed calmed down, Yora patted him on the back, telling him that he has still got it. Just then, the ground beneath them started rattling and a gigantic earthworm came out of it. It attacked Yora, almost swallowing her. Alec told her that he would save her and she just needed to activate her shield. Yora fully trusted him, and she activated her shield spell as Alec summoned a fire serpent and attacked the earthworm with it, turning it to ash. Yora was completely unharmed by the fire, and as she descended to the ground, she ran towards Alec. She said that he is still the strongest attack mage she knows, and their fight reminded her of their academy days. Back then, they were struggling against a 5-headed dragon that was too tough for their weapons, and its attacks were too relentless. However, Alec obliterated the monster with just one spell after enough prep time. Thanks to that, they were able to clear the 68th floor of the dungeon and created a new academy record. And now Alec was going to join the same party of friends again. Back when they destroyed the level 68 boss and returned back to the magical academy, they were hailed as the best batch of students the Academy has seen in a long while, and even their instructor, named Rosie, knew that there was something different with these 4 students, as they seemed to blend in with each other and work together with unmatched synergy. They all returned from the dungeons with bruises and cuts, but with wide smiles on their faces as they just beat the all-time record of reaching and crossing the level 68 dungeon. And not only did they beat the record, they utterly smashed it, since the last strongest party was only able to reach till the 32nd floor, floor. Finally, the day of graduation came when Rosie released their scores with one member being 4th in class, followed by Kra, who was 3rd, then Yora, who was the runner-up, and finally Alec, who was the best scoring student by far in recent history and the class valedictorian. They were all happy and full of hope back then, as they made fun of their instructor and got beaten up for it as well. While they were leaving the academy together, the remaining students were all jealously watching what they thought was the conception of one of the best parties that they would ever see. A party which is definitely going to gain a legendary status, not knowing that Alec would soon decide that he doesn't want to pursue his career as an adventurer and instead wants to become a court magician. His party members were stunned by this news, but they did realize that the job of a court magician is comparatively easier with much better and stable pay. Even though they were disheartened by this, they never blamed Alec for that and wished him good luck in the future, while Yora promised that someday they would again be in a team together. In the present, that promise seems to be fulfilled as Yora and Alec celebrate in a bar where after only taking a single glass of booze, Yora is completely blackout drunk. She started getting angry about the fact that they are not allowed to go in the deeper dungeons yet, but soon ended up sleeping right there on the bench. Alec smiled at her, remembering how she was basically the same even during their academy years. He put his jacket on her so that she could sleep a little warmer, but one of the people inside the bar didn't seem to like that. He walked up to Alec, making fun of him, but Alec completely ignored him. He obviously had anger issues, so he raised his bottle to smash it on Alec's head, but Alec used a mana shield effortlessly to block the attack before turning to face him. The man smiled at him, happy at the fact that he finally got some attention. He already knew that Alec was a court magician and claimed that he wouldn't expect someone as elite as him would be roaming around trying to become an adventurer. This sudden change in his mood surprised Alec, but what surprised him more is the fact that the big burly man took out a card from his pocket, which turned out to be an adventurer pass, and put it down on the table in front of him. Alec was confused and asked what he was doing, but the man simply replied that it was a token of apology for testing him with the bottle, but he also put another condition that Alec must show him his magic if he wants to take the pass. Alec was still confused when suddenly Yora woke up groggy and called the man the guildmaster, asking what he was doing here. Alec was at a loss of word, wondering why the guildmaster would just give him a pass, but the man seemed to be relaxed and handed it over before taking them to the training ground. He claimed that this is the underground training area where he tests the parties who want to level up, and this is where Alec will show him his strength. Yora claimed that this might not be the best time since Alec has been drinking for a while, but Alec claimed that he still has enough mana left to fight. The guildmaster formally introduced himself to Alec as Levy, and that immediately rang a bell in Alec's head as he realized that the guildmaster is a very powerful mage who used to lead an S-ranked party a while back. The guildmaster laughed, claiming that those are blurry memories now, and clarified the requirements, which are very simple. Alec has to impress Levy with his magical skills, and that's all. With that, they both got ready for the sparring session, and Alec took the first step as he used his offensive thunderbolt magic, which was expertly dodged by Levy, who in turn used water magic and threw water projectiles. Alec dodged them and realized that the guildmaster had the upper hand in terms of range, so he decided to try some other strategy. He decided to turn the fight into a close quarters combat, but to his surprise, instead of backing off, Levy slammed the ground with his fists and used reinforcement magic on himself, boosting his speed a lot. He then dashed towards Alec, sidestepping him at the very last moment, and started revolving around him at an incredible speed before trying to land a solid punch, which Alec barely blocked with his mana shield. The shield, however, ended up shattering due to the sheer force of the blow, and he got blasted into the walls. Levy was impressed by his durability though, claiming that not many people could survive that punch. But Alec walked out of the cloud of dust, claiming that Levy was indeed a true S-ranked adventurer. Seeing his nonchalant nature confused Levy a little, who expected him to be scared and worried. But Alec claimed that he is continuously forgetting that he is no longer the court magician who was bound by a bunch of rules and was only able to use defensive magic. Since he is now not bound by anything, he can truly let go and use his full arsenal of magic attacks. Levy laughed at this and told him to come at him full force, and Alec took out his staff once again, but this time he turned it into a magical blade. Levy got ready for his attacks and again threw water projectiles at him, but this time Alec managed to dodge the first one before slashing the next. He pretended to go on the offensive, which forced Levy to do the same, but this was all a plan. When Levy used his self-boosting magic and dashed towards Alec, he laid down a trap and exploded it with a thunderbolt before slashing through him to the other side. Levy stood still for a couple of moments, claiming that Alec truly is something else as he already overpowered his magic. But to Alex's surprise, Levy wasn't done yet and activated his trump card. He brought out magical gauntlets covered with dragon scales, which gave him an immense boost in strength. And with all that power, He rushed straight at Alec, who barely dodged the hit. The punches created a crater on the ground, but Alec was not ready to back off as he then used his lightning spell on him, but Levy simply shook it off, completely ignoring the hit. Levy pushed through the attack and tried to punch Alec, who blocked the hit with his shield, but got pushed back. He wondered what he could do next to deal with this monster, but Levy had more tricks in his bag as he used a special ability of his gauntlets, which healed him of any injuries. Levy realized that the more he dragged out the fight, the worse his chances of winning were. So, he decided to push the attack and started slashing and hacking at Levy, who managed to block every single strike, taunting Alec to do better than that. Alec decided to talk back as well, which upset the guildmaster, who tried to land a powerful punch, but Alec dodged that and found an opening to attack. This annoyed the guildmaster even more, so he pushed on with the attack, hitting the wall instead as Alec nimbly dodged beneath it. Levy didn't give him any breathing space, though, and tried to land another attack, but Alec blocked successfully before trying to land the winning blow. To his surprise, though, the guildmaster was a lot tougher than he looked, and soaked the damage before trying to land a double-handed smash, which covered the air with a dust cloud. But as the dust cleared, Alec emerged out of it unhurt and tried to go after Levy once again. But this time, when he struck the guildmaster, his staff turned limp and he fell to the ground unconscious after completely running out of mana. Yora immediately rushed towards him using her regeneration magic to heal. Suddenly, another member named Rain appeared inside the training ground, making fun of Levy for being an S-ranked adventurer and using his strongest skill on a lower-ranked person. Levy told him to be quiet as he was merely testing Alec's limits and he would have passed him anyway. With that, Rain picked Alec up and took him into a room where he could get some rest. They talked about how it's been so long since they have been together like this. When the receptionist burst into the room, claiming that she urgently needed the guildmaster, Levy grabbed her and dragged her out of the room with him, while Rain grabbed a bunch of booze and asked Yora to tell him everything that happened with Alec. By the time she was finished, Rain was shaking with anger, as he realized that the people in the prince's party made him carry all their stuff, had him do their inventory, never let him use any magic apart from defensive one, and didn't even let him carry a dagger with him. He suddenly turned towards Yora and asked how exactly Alec even used defensive magic, since that was Rain's job at the academy, and Alec was never any good at it. Yora replied that he learned it from scratch and worked at it till he became good enough, and now his defensive magic is almost as good as hers. He realized that even after babysitting the crown prince for all that time, they still banished him by calling him worthless. He ended up shattering the bottle in his hands in anger, which woke Alec up. He was a little surprised to see Rain here, while Yora happily exclaimed that the guildmaster gave him the pass. This made Alec really happy, as now they can all move towards the higher level dungeons as a party. But Rain told them that it can wait as before, that they need to do something else. Alec had no idea what he was talking about, but Rain explained that first, they need to take revenge. For that, they will enter the royal city and sneak into the palace and then confront the prince and his party. Alec told him that they are not going to do anything like that, and even Yora claimed that fighting other parties is strictly prohibited. Alec put a hand on Rain's shoulder, telling him that having loads of fun on their adventure would be enough for him, as he doesn't really care or think about what happened to him at the court anymore. Rain suddenly claimed that he has got it. All they have to do is become the strongest party in the world. That would certainly upset the prince. And if their country is ever in any problem, they are bound to come for aid to the strongest party in the world, and it would feel really amazing to say no to their faces. Alec realized that this is the best compromise that he could get, so he agreed on becoming the strongest party in the world. Meanwhile, in another room, an injured S-ranked adventurer named Krista was badly injured as she breathed hard while the receptionist applied bandages to her body. The guildmaster didn't look amused by this, since if an S-ranked party is in trouble, that means that the whole guild is in trouble. Krista told Levy that her party is still stranded, and they need all the help that they could get. The guildmaster immediately convened an emergency meeting where he called all the high-ranked adventurers and explained that they are going on a rescue mission on the 64th floor. Back in Alec's room, he ended up meeting Kreia after a long time. She asked why he is not at the meeting, but Alec replied that he is not a high-ranked adventurer, so he stayed back. She immediately cast her heal spell, which completely healed Alec in an instant. Yora and Rain entered the room as Rain started screaming with excitement that they are going to go on a rescue mission. They caught Alec up on the happenings, claiming that the dungeon is a little different because on that floor you can't use magic, so you are completely dependent on potions. And since the S-ranked party got completely wiped out, they ended up sending Krista alone to get help. Alec asked Kra whether she was fine working in that dungeon since her speciality is healing magic, and she replied that she opposed it. But Rain overruled her and used his veto to enter the dungeon. They started bickering with each other when Yora turned towards Alec, claiming that it should be up to him whether they go into the dungeon or not, since he is going to have the main and the hardest job dealing with the main floor boss. Alec agreed to the mission, and soon they headed out towards the dungeon. And standing in front of the entrance, Rain claimed that this is going to be the start of the legend of their party.